game this is from. All right, so welcome to Chorby SP. If this is your first time here, hi, hey. This is a stream that normally we would be performing video games from just a wide array of the funnest, sweetest, and nicest and coolest games that we've got. And tonight is a different thing. Tonight is a special performance. I have in my purview 1,007. I took 1,007 different photos of the Netherlands. While I was there, I studied abroad with the University of Washington. It's on the hat. And while I studied there, I got to see all of the libraries, all of the archives, all of the museums. We have the big photo reel out. We are 17 photos in. We've really just begun. I have clearly not landed in Amsterdam, but for everyone that doesn't know what we're doing tonight, this is a very, very special stream. I'm doing my homework. You are all a part of my homework now. And so are you, Conan. Show me Walker, Texas homework. I gotta read about TV6 Lithuania, though. He just straight up kicked the guy. All media Baltics. We're not going to the Baltics. Wikipedia, we're not in the Baltics. We're in the Netherlands, which is, I think, different. Maybe not, actually. But I am a library master's student. And being a part of the University of Washington's library master's program does mean that I am part of the best, greatest, #1 rated library program in the United States. And this is the best study abroad in that program. This is what Amsterdam looks like. This wild Minecraft-ass looking building. If I had $1 for every building I looked at and said, that's not finished, I would have, sorry, €1. I would have €50. Because, goddamn, I'll have a couple of these photos of buildings that are so not finished. Don't worry, we're gonna Dutch it up, I promise. There! It Dutches. I promise you that you can now Dutch the stream. Or undutch it, if you like. We have crossed the river to the other side of the Amsterdam River to go see another building that doesn't have... It's mostly finished. You can see that underneath is a large arch where the rest of the building could be, but isn't. They don't finish the buildings here. This is my face when I see, oh geez, a building in Amsterdam. Utrecht? Awesome. Love this place. Love the old-timey buildings. We were in this very old-style classroom. Right, I'm taking pictures of this classroom just because, wow, it is older than any classroom that I would ever be in the University of Washington. This is not... Buildings are not allowed to get this gracefully old in Seattle. Being at the Black Archive is extremely helpful. Blackness in the Netherlands is a huge part of what it means to be Dutch. Because where do black folks come from in the Netherlands? How do they get there? The slave trade pushes a lot of people between North America, Suriname, the Caribbean, Africa, and all of Europe. But the relationship between the country of Suriname, north of Brazil, and the Netherlands is actually really good. It's a little absurd, but there's a very strong working relationship that withstood the traumas of colonization, and it is something where now they can look back and really kind of celebrate parts of this. This is where that kind of unearned feeling goes, like, oh, we did colonization correctly. Look at Suriname. But that's also weird because you know how people don't know about the Netherlands? They really don't know about Suriname. These are two countries that are somewhere weirdly unknown, and they're unknown because they know each other, and that's about who they know. Their friends are not our friends, so we don't know each other very well. It's kind of cool though. The black struggle in the Netherlands is very interesting. I think it really represents a lot of Netherlands politics and struggle inherent. The #1 thing that pretty much any Netherlander is going to point to is like, what does the black struggle look like? They're going to point to their struggle with a Christmas time holiday where for the longest time they celebrated Black Pete, who is a, you could say, a elf helper to Santa Claus, but it sure looked like slavery. A specifically black character that is supposed to do Santa's work for him. And so Black Pete was a part of the Netherlands, part of Dutch tradition for a long time. When did they get rid of Black Pete? I believe it was 2012. It took until 2020! 2020! It took until an entire pandemic and the Floyd protests specifically, the George Floyd protests, to like actually nail it into people's skulls. Like, hey, this sucks. This sucks bad. This is blackface, first of all. And second of all, it's like, it's not fun. Oh man, I'm seeing this thing on Wikipedia that says British comedian and activist Russell Brand spoke negatively on the character. Russell Brand said this sucks. You should really pack it in, dubbing it a colonial hangover. That sucks. That's not even a great way to put that. That softens the blow even more, Russell Brand. Yeah, that's a part of the stuff that we were reckoning with, but also it's very Dutch, very Netherlands to be that slow. Good. It's just like the boy back home, exactly. That's what we're saying, Krill. Worse for wear, but aging gracefully. That's many such cases here. Sorry, 2 hours in. We're gonna get to 100 photos, I promise. Look at this guy. I shouldn't take pictures of people. It's not really polite. It's not really appropriate. But, oh man, I love this guy so much. The moment he got on the train, the vibes were incredible. Got Kurt Vonnegut out the back pocket of the cargo pants. Got the Gucci's on. Ed Hardy ass type hat. He is a proto star. He's very, very stylish. The Netherlands kind of had a king, but like, when you think about the English Empire, you think about how the royal family, the monarchy, oversaw all of that. The Dutch East India Trading Company was a mercantilist system. They were building mercantilism into the first capitalism. If they could sell off parts of this empire to other parties, they would. Which is what happened to New York City, which was originally called New Amsterdam. They sold it so that they could have, I think it was for Suriname. But that's not what is here now. This is not the VOC. The VOC is gone. What is here is actually funny enough, a humanities school. The exact people to scrutinize the practices of the VOC is what works inside of this now. It is a humanities university, and so they have full privilege to curate this as a museum in the way they want. This is actually still a meeting room that they use for meetings and stuff, but this was the original meeting room of the VOC. From meeting table to reading table. There's the picture of them all meeting. These chairs were so comfy. We had to take a picture of them. That's how pretty and comfy they were. They look comfortable. That's because they were absolutely that comfortable. And they look so elegant and pretty. But this is the view from the top of the library. And this is the theater at the top of the library. They have a full theater, a full stage. Here's all the crew. There's Zane again. There's Tom again. And this is Pipine. Pipine was such a hunk. And he was so excited to show us this part. Pipine is a librarian at OBA, at the biggest museum. Or sorry, at the biggest library in Amsterdam. But Pipine does not have any kind of degree in libraries. He's an actor. He's an actor who picked up an entry-level gig. And that's all of the spots. Libraries in the Netherlands are not operated by people with degrees in libraries, which is interesting to us. And that changes a lot of the flow and changes a lot of the idea of how these parts of libraries work. But now there's still librarians who do have degrees that do work in certain parts of libraries, and especially in the archive sections. But that's just a fascinating little change that we kind of kept bumping into in weird ways, where it's like we're talking to experts in the library that we are in, but not experts in libraries, plural. You should all know Sadao Hasegawa. This is if no one has seen this, you will now never be able to unsee Hasegawa's work in any library that you go to. The IFLA LGBT heritage section. In the OBA, this is the largest LGBTQ section in Europe. Yeah, that was their claim, was that they were #1 in Europe in this place. It is big. This is actually it's not in that section of the library. We're going to show that again, but it is right next to the Descartes section. There's so much philosophy in this library. But yeah, lots more Spinoza. Every floor has like working stations that have very comfy chairs and very different chairs. They have like nooks specifically made out of like 17th and 18th century furniture, like that they've restored so that you can reuse it in this library. Here's their manga section. Their young adult section that has manga. It's light. It is very, very light. It is lighter than you would get at like a bookstore. It's just hard to get translations. That whole, after being there in the Netherlands, that whole Japan-Dutch relationship, thank you. Exactly. That relationship kind of sus. That's some cool shit. Very gay in there. Very approving. But yeah, right in the middle of this place is just a full makerspace. Also a full television studio. I don't know if I got a picture of it, but yeah, no, this was because this was after this. A television studio for their public broadcast outlet. And so they can run news and they can run TV spots from inside of this library specifically. This is what a library should be, and we haven't gotten to the best part yet. We're about to. This is a Muslim exhibition. They have a rotating exhibition inside of the library, which is really helpful because that means that new exhibitions come into the library, which means that the library is getting to interface with representing cultures within the public community. And so when museums and libraries have these kinds of exhibitions that rotate, it means that we've gotten to see it firsthand, that every time they do an exhibition, it means it's another opportunity to talk to politicians. Because if it's a big enough, loud enough spot, then you can then invite politicians to say, hey, this is what this community is experiencing, this is what they care about. Is there something we can do to help, or is there some way that we need to engage? Is there policy that can be enacted? And that is a part of why museums always feel old and they feel like they work slowly. It's because you can only rotate your exhibit every 6 months, every 3 months, every 4 years, every 10 years. And depending on that scale that you're working at, that's the kind of statement that you can make. We'll get to that at the end of all this. This is going to become really important later. Of all of the places that we went, I probably vibed with this place the most. They have specific rooms, like, this is the gay room. This is the queer research library. This is a dedicated space specifically for queer research. And the room itself is not going to change. Now, at the UW, at our school at least, you don't have like this same sort of dedicated library space or dedicated research space to a topic. Usually you have rooms that you can reserve and then, reserve them for a certain amount of time and then they change. So the rooms are supposed to be very modular. And this was a library that had a like decolonization specific room. A library for where all of those books can be found and where more will show up as researchers add more, and thus the research can build on top of each other. And so it's really helpful. Or they also just have a meditation room. Yeah, so we're working on cultural trade, which is complicated and difficult because it means nations have to talk to each other. And it means that you have to have something of value that then also looks like it has value to the other place and can also be shipped there. So this starts with like, oh, we're gonna bring paintings, or fine paintings, to another country. But that costs a lot of money. You have to ensure the travel, the painting gets there, and then you get something back that's of lesser quality because they couldn't afford, because that country doesn't have the resources to afford insurance on their fine paintings, so they give you something lesser, and it becomes complicated. And so the Netherlands' response to this was they started making modular, shippable culture sites, basically. These are stop sign signals. These are very pedestrian types of artifacts that would mean a lot to another country. This is smart, but not great, because this still is a lot, and to set it up when you are the recipient of this is complicated. It took a long, like, large, big booklet of like, all right, step 1, step 2, step 5 million to put this together, just to see, oh, this is a bunch of pedestrian stuff. Okay. So here's Dutch Design 2. I'm glad I got a good picture of this, because unlike Dutch Design 1, now you can see they're doing the cross-folding. This is now just standard practice in museums, especially for, like, designing things that are exhibition that will travel, right? And so, not only, you can see there's things hanging, they're working with 3D space, but in a collapsible form. The idea is that they would ship the box to a place, and the box itself was also evoking Dutch design qualities and properties. Dutch art is architecture. Dutch art is typography. Dutch art is blocks, lots of shape, in the modern sense. It comes from here. It comes from building a European Union and wanting to be a leader in that. Anyway, here's some Dutch sculpture that's at the VU. And now let's pop over. This is what, the next day? Yes, July 3rd. Now we are going to State Alike, a modern art museum. We were just at universities learning library structure and learning about Dutch art, how it's shaped, why it is the way it is. Now let's go to a modern museum and see it in action. Yep, that's what I'm talking about. Yes, State Alike, this is a famous museum. This is one of the most famous museums in the world. This is the most famous modern art museum in the world. And there's chairs all over the place. They wouldn't let me sit on any of them. And this big ol' video game wall. Okay, perfect. There was a whole room for Web Du Bois' art. Of all people, like American artist Web Du Bois, W.B. Du Bois, his visualizations, his data visualizations. He did a whole bunch of these, and they looked incredible. This article that I found, I'll post the link of it in the chat. This article that I found was, doesn't even have, like, a lot of this stuff. It has some really great stuff. But just seeing data visualizations for the state of Georgia in the State Alike was like, whoa. Cool. Sick. 1800s, yeah, no, this is way before computers. I feel like it would evoke even more if the nails were in the other direction. Maybe the artist had something specific they were going for. Not me! Give me violence. And ever since I saw this piece, I have now been thinking about, alright, how do I do a museum wrestling match? Because there's certain things you couldn't do in a wrestling match in a museum. And there's certain things that would be really exciting and fun and cool. And playing within the space of things you're not allowed and allowed to do inside of a museum space would be awesome. It'd be really good. Just both wrestlers put their hands behind their back and look at art and get in art position. I think it'd be fun.
And there are 2 typefaces designed by William Morris on basis of those photos. the golden type, and this is the third version, you could say, the Troy type. This is a smaller version of the Troy type. And the design is by Morris, of course. Actually, the illustrations were drawn by Burne Jones, a friend of his, and it's all printed from blocks.
So we're getting to how the socialists made Detroit type. This is Chaucer. All that lead up was to give me a little break in the middle of all of this because we're 300 photos in. This is a 16th century Chaucer. That's why this book had such a preamble to introduce it. This is gorgeous. Every single page of this is like this. And so to see that it also helped inspire new typefaces that we use now is like, yeah, that makes sense. We got to touch a microfilm scanner. Yee! The other thing Crabman said that was exciting, that I can very loudly say, that I think is cool and stupid at the same time. They are going to make a new archive. And so we got to see the floor plans of a new, modern, high-tech archive plan. And the plan is supposed to be a humanless archive. Scary, dangerous, exciting, sexy. It's going to look kind of like an Amazon plan, right? That's inherently, because you're going to be using, robot technology to scan, archive, hold books. We talked about it. They're going to also, like every other library that we've been seeing, they're going to use it by style of order of acquisition, which means first books go in at the bottom of the stack, and then when you find something, you move. You don't move all the books, but you just move things over to condense space as needed. Which is, in my head, very efficient, actually. I as far as I'm a systems game designer type brain, I'm excited for that. That's a very cool thing. And they are developing a archival system that has to build a space that is space efficient, can have a person inside of it. First of all, you can't remove people completely from the equation, because if something goes wrong, there's still space for humans to walk the archive and move about it so that they can, fix stuff. That's really important. I could see so many ways that something like this could go very, very catastrophically wrong, but there will still be a person there to oversee that part of things. And the labor involved in archivalship is specifically the kind, well, not all archivalship, but like in the putting a book back on the shelf, taking it off the shelf, that kind of archival work does suck, and you'd love to automate that. That's the kind of stuff that is like, yes, please take that off my hands so I can do other archival work. Oba, that museum, or that library that everyone right after I showed him said, wow, this is what a library should be like. It is a social place for a community that has very specific views on what should and shouldn't happen in a library, but that it can be a communal space that is loud, that is exciting, that has performances and presentations, that you have cafes at, you can serve beer, people aren't afraid of things getting on books, people trust each other. That's not a thing at American libraries. Anyone can access them. They are free to use. And that is not a middle-class library. That is not the culture of an American library. It is very far from feeling like a communal, loud place. And we're trying to push against that. There's a lot of work being done in the library sector to renovate that, but it is hard, because when people think about the kinds of people who go to a library, it's the people who have the most needs. It is the lower class of folks. The middle and upper classes do not want to integrate or interact with a library for any reason. They want to divest any kind of resource that they could put into that, because that is for poor people. Because it's free. So, it's one of those what comes first kinds of things. Do we try to get the upper classes to negotiate with the low classes? Not going to happen. Do we put a monetary barrier for parts of the library so that income can come in specifically for library upgrades, renovations, and so that the people that have money can put stake into the library? Because if they have stake in the library, they then won't want to shut it down. Because they will know that people within their community also have stake in that library at a financial level. That's tough. That's a tough question. That's a tough scenario. But seeing it in action here, I'm just like, that's hard to argue against. These are not like high price things either, but there is still a small price barrier put in place to build that stake. It's strange. It's weird. I don't think it works. I don't think it's just how I am. I think the functions that American libraries give put everything that I am about to show you to shame. I think if you go to your public library in an American city, you will be serviced to such a much higher regard than getting a fucking beer in a library. Because librarians are magic. That's because these are people with degrees that can help you with literally anything that you could possibly imagine, and are happy to. And that's not a thing. It's not necessarily the same kind of thing that's happening at these libraries, as comfortable as they are. And they're very comfortable. Comfortable. So yeah, this is kind of like the things that I'm processing while I'm here, and coming to this library specifically really hit me with that stone cold. Dudes be thinking in the Netherlands. Folks be thunking a lot. The statues show it. We're in Rotterdam! Wait, that is exactly what you think it is. Don't even think it's something else. Don't worry about it. So we went to the library. We took a long walk around, saw a bunch of really cool stuff, went to the library. This is not a part of our, I'm doing extra credit, baby. Buildings by women. I'll find out later that this was a thing, that there was a series of women architected buildings, and this is one of them. You know how I was talking about the middle classification of libraries in the Netherlands? This is a shopping mall! This is just a mall! It looks like a furniture store! The middle classification of libraries, this is it! I could not... They're playing chess down there! This is so cool. It's so beautiful. We're here on a Saturday. It's busy. It's fun. It's happening. Families, children, people who are just want to hang out and get out of the city to do stuff and you know. Okay, so these are all of these this series of women architect buildings. That's so important because the women get invisibilized a lot in architecture because the size and the scale of these kinds of structures, the business level of it is not seen as like an art, but it's seen as a craft, and because of that it becomes a very male-dominated space that invisibilizes women because the building gets made and no one cares who made it except they do, and just in all of this there is so much ego in architecture that it pushes out so many people in the peripheries. And so you end up having to do like stuff like this. Be like, these buildings are made by women! Hey! Hey! But that's amazing. That's cool how many. I didn't realize there'd be so many. Or that they would be even outside of Rotterdam itself. Oh yeah, baby! We got a data map. Oh, that's sick. I think my main point when I was looking at this is that I wanted... Oh, yeah, this is what I wanted to pull this up for. You walk into a room representing a year, and a section of that room has a topic. And then on the wall, you'll see a person who has a single story about how they do or do not resist Nazi occupation. So this is not flattering to the Netherlands, and nor should it be, because the Netherlands' part in the Holocaust is bad. Bad, 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 bad. They got walked all over. The country was dog-walked very viscerally. Like hundreds of thousands of... They had 100,000 people, 100,000 Jewish people, and they lost 90% of them. Abysmal. The worst possible situations, and they did not resist. Few people did. These are their stories. They were slow to get Dutch Jews. They didn't even get the Dutch Jews out of the concentration camps in time. They were the last country to. It's absurd. It's insane. If you want to know, like, why the Netherlands are the way they are, it's because they failed. At World War II, when the world was at war, they did not see it coming, even though it was their house. So yeah, they helped so much. It's absurd. And a lot of it was because we saw the stories in here that was just like, well, you know, it's inevitable. The Nazis are here now. What? Where? Yes, it is Monday, July 7th. It will now become July 8th. We have now moved back to Rotterdam. We're back, baby. This is outside the New Institute. And the New Institute rocks. This is a bizarre place of... it is an architecture museum. It is an architecture archive and an architecture library. It is all of those things. So, 1, 2, 3 different institutions had to combine, and they had to work together. And inside of that, being a museum, an archive, and a library, means that all three of those things can fuel each other in a very special way. And it was so grounding to see that in person. And to be able to be like, oh, I know how to apply this in my daily life. If there was a wrestling archive and a wrestling library, those would not be very popular. But a wrestling museum would be very popular, and it could get people into wrestling, and those people would definitely need a library and an archive. So you can see how this kind of thing can grow. Some architecture fans would love to see an architect museum. And they go into the museum and they go, oh my god, you have a library here? Can I see it? You have an archive? Can I work in it? This is the levels of collaborations between all of these sectors. I did not know before going here that that's the beating heart of the whole heritage sector. I kind of was like, museums, libraries, archives, they're very similar. They're really, really similar. And only until I see them in action together, like in the same room together, does it make sense that, like, oh, this is not just old stuff displayed for people. A library is old stuff displayed for people. Archive, that's old stuff displayed for people. A museum, that's old stuff displayed for people. No. The like stakes and stakeholders between all of them create a specific political environment that makes it so that when you move all of those parties together, they can reinforce each other in a really cool way. Boom, all right here, all in one spot. Flat on its face. Oh, I meant to... Whoop, that's the right button. And it's a deep-fried clog. It's a deep-fried clog. That's so fucking funny, man. African Studies, we studied the African Studies thesaurus, specifically. A thesaurus that is deeply lacking. It feels like it is 30 years behind. We're back again to the slow, patient theme of the Netherlands. Why? And I talked to them personally to try to, like, kind of probe this, and I just asked the normal question that you ask when you see something that doesn't quite make sense and seems to be moving very slowly. How many hours do you work? This is not a polite question in the Netherlands, by the way. This is not something you ask in polite company. They do not like to talk about work in that kind of way. It is just a job, right? It is not something that defines them in any way. So this was an impolite question to ask. The answer was 30. There is 8 people that kind of head this whole thing. It is a small group, and most of them are not full-time. They work, ever since the pandemic, they work remotely. And so this small team is getting good work done. They are doing what they can with what they got. And we saw every single person in the team, saw what their jobs and their roles were. And they're doing the right things to make this, the African Studies Library as strong as they can inside of one of the oldest universities in Europe. Leiden University is a massive university, so big that they can have an African Studies Center, an African Studies Library. And yet, it is still so not heavily resourced. There's just not enough people working there, not enough time or money put into them working there. However, the thing that I noted between everyone that works in this space is that they all have missions that don't apply necessarily to collection. Their positions all apply to larger scopes of librarianship. So it is tending to a thesaurus. It is going on acquisition trips to Africa. It is modeling the library in a way that's more accessible and rebuilding it. So here we are in the library itself, and it just got moved into here, and it's beautiful. It's a really pretty space. Very well lit. The old African Studies place was not very well attended. This place is. So huge upgrades have happened here that have made the African Studies department much more enjoyable to be at, to work at, to be in. More people are there, frequenting it more often. This helps, we're building the things into place. Things are getting there. This has been 6.5 hours of museums and knowledge and stuff. We've gone a lot of places. We've gone a lot of really cool places. But I think the National Video Game Museum deserves a little more time and space. And we deserve to do it when we're awake. Because there's just a lot of cool stuff to show you guys. I think this is a perfect halfway point. Oh, man. Yeah, we're gonna pour over just a lot of these pictures. I took so many pictures of how they display this museum. It's so cool. It's so fun. Come on. The Lizzie McGuire shrine. Come on. I have so many thoughts every time I get to do a homework assignment for a live stream, because I'm short-circuiting 2 different groups. One, my dear friends who not only lovingly put up with me, but also deeply care as much as I do, and think that, hey, all of this study of heritage sector and what we do here is really, really important. And B, the professors who I am inflicting our community on as well, who do not know what a live stream is and may not necessarily understand how this works, but then just see this and just go, all right, man, I don't know what to do with this, but I guess you did the assignment, so here's all the points. here's all the points. Let me double check, make sure. We got audio's sounding good. Lighting is looking good. Let's walk in. The museum it's an arcade. It's straight up an arcade. But it's not. It's a heritage sector. It's a very important heritage sector, and it's not an arcade. Full of children, very loud. So they chose to do eras, decades, 70s, 80s, 90s, 2000s, and they chose to do the console wars using corporations as the crux of how they want to display what video games are. Video games are a time period, and video games are a corporation. I think that's important. It's not unexpected. I think it's very, you know, I don't think it's the wrong way to do it. I think if you have a video game museum, that's probably the most grounding way to do it. And that means that we're gonna go into an Xbox room. And boy, howdy, this is sure an Xbox room, huh? But they also are not finished getting set up as a Dutch cultural heritage site. There's still paperwork in the works. They are looking for an extension from the crown, the royal family, to help them out with getting this all set up. I don't know how any of that works, but it's just, when I heard that, just like buzzers sounded off in my brain, like, oh wow, the cultural heritage sector of the Netherlands has to work through and with the royal family. Interesting. Strange. Could not possibly fathom what that means. Please, Mr. King, please. Well, that's the thing, right? Anytime you are in the cultural sector, when you are building heritage sites, you are in a way beholden to the government and the state that is hosting that. And if the state says, hey, that does not represent our state because we don't know how it connects, that's difficult. How is any of this Dutch is going to be the first thing that they're asked, right? And the answer is, well, it's kinda, people like this stuff. It's popular. You know, it's fun and exciting. But that's where stuff like these kinds of things come in. That's where things like working with the youth, that's where that comes in. Stuff like this is extremely important for making it look like it's important that this is there to represent the industry. And that's where all of these Dutch books come in. That's a part of why they have set up all of these rooms, the history era rooms. We're going all the way back. I can tell you very specifically that the reason that we have this wall of Lizzie McGuire photos is to make the cultural sector happy. All of this work on setting up a perfect 90s send-up of a room to show what the 90s Dutch bedroom looked like is to get a hold of the state, whether it's the crown or whether it's the government, to show them, hey, we know what we're about, and we are representing your childhood. And if it's not your childhood, then they will wait until that group dies off. Or I don't know how does kings change hands? They have to be killed, right? Until the next generation comes up, and now they've got this set up, and they can go, hey, Parliament, we're cultural, and they look at this, and they go, yes, this was my childhood. Thank you for preserving this. That's why Lizzie McGuire is here. This is stuff this shouldn't exist, and yet, because it's so loud and in your face, all the way down to these really tacky Japanese lanterns, like, why is this down here? Why are we specifically curating a secret Japanese basement? It's one, for the aesthetic, the Japanese basement gaming. It's two, because this takes a bunch of power and heat, and this is the coolest part of the building. Three, we need new video games. And Japanese arcade rhythm games are where new stuff constantly comes in, so that when this museum can get those in, they now have strong relationships with those manufacturers in case anything goes wrong on any other things. This is where the enthusiasts get involved. So all of these things work together to make what is an incredible, ostentatious museum. And at 5 o'clock, they told me, get out, and they turned all of it off, and we heard silence. Yay! Oh, Will, I'm so glad you're here. Happy 29 months.
Video games? They're more likely than you think.
What color's that sail? It's red, right? You're correct. It's a red sail. Then why is there so much blue in there? How'd they do that? God, I get it. Look, it looks like a landscape, but it's just lines. Do you see it? That's not even minimalism. It's just architecture. It's just the you read it top to bottom, left to right, and it's exactly what it is on the tin. What are we expressing here? Not much. Now, cubism, though, can do all the things that Dustigil can, while not looking like a Metal Gear Solid camo index painting. Yeah, when I say that we are attracting kids to the middle of the woods, I don't mean like a Hansel and Gretel type situation, but I could see this could be very similar. This is where the band Delft Punk comes from, yes. The city of Delft. We are open. We're open. We're heading to libraries. This is the point of the whole trip, remember? Not museums. This is a library program. There's our Professor Trent, very excited to show us a library that will blow our mind. This is the DOK. D-O-K. This is not normally how you organize a library. This is a much more informal organization than we would be used to, but you can afford to do this when it's a community library, and this community library only has to serve Delft. This is not connected to a larger network that has to, like, have similar rules. America has a complicated system. We use the Dewey Decimal System a lot because it's standardized. And there's so much space, like land, that you have to cover across America, that to have one library do something like this is actually kind of annoying. Because if they try to take this system and try to work with other libraries, it won't work. Because you won't be able to share your books with that other library now. Not as easily, because it's not going to be in the system, or you'll have to, put it into this system or take it out of this system, and that's a lot. All right, so library's organized real cool, but what's the library like? Check out where we are. Every library that I have taken you to in the Netherlands, I have just absolutely declared, doesn't this look like the middle class of libraries? Doak is very special, because when it looks like the middle class of libraries, that's because this building used to be a grocery store. And it looks like that. It has the shape of a grocery store. But now we've got fun spiral staircase, and we've got a fun dance studio, and it's all lit up really nice. But all of this back here, the skylights and everything, this is a grocery store. Thus, it still has that feeling of like that middle class vibe. It's not escaping. I'm not letting any of these Dutch libraries off the hook. And then Brünn is history. And history is divided into 3 groups. Very long ago, and short ago. That is literally what these are. And that is supposed to be a funny little joke. The kids wanted to have the joke for recent history and historical things. That was short ago. That was not long ago, and that was not very long ago. It's an awesome system. Very, very cool. A beautiful library. Just stunning. Incredible to be in. The vibes are immaculate. Loved being there. Everyone just was like, yep, this is what I want all libraries to be like. They could all just be like this if we weren't cowards. But more if we weren't connected to so many different networks and responsible for so many different groups all of the time. If you just had a simple library for a small number of people. Now, how come they can get away with this? Well, in a day, I think. No, in 2 days, we're going to come back to Delft, and we're going to go to the university in Delft. The university library is going to look extraordinarily different, shockingly different, and yet still be open to the same city. And so they have a different selection. They're allowed to be very different. I had to take a picture of the guy smoking in the archives because that's insane. This is a museum this is the first time that we walked in where we did not have to ask the question, hey, how do you make your money? Because this place is sold out every day for a very long time. They have not had a not sold out day in a very long time. They probably won't. And so because of that, that means a couple of interesting things that they have challenges for, like, hey, how do we get Dutch people into the Van Gogh Museum? Because they can't. More specifically, how do we get Dutch young people into the Van Gogh Museum? And so this is the frame builders' whole goal, is to figure that problem out. And they do it in a couple ways. One, they get every year the cohort that they establish. They just give out the Van Goghs, give them to the kids. Have you tried this yet? We have so many of them. They have a wing in the Van Gogh Museum that they are allowed to curate in almost whatever way they want, with oversight, of course. But like, they're given freedom, they're given space to really like push to the limits to figure out like, how do we do this? So that's the first place that we're about to go. You're about to see some really cool shit. And the other thing they do is they organize Friday teen nights, or young adult nights, where the tickets are specifically only in Dutch. They're only put out like a week before, and it's only for some Fridays in the summer. And it's buried on the website, intentionally buried, so that they can just over Dutch social media put out a like, here's the link. Go get them. And they'll like book a local band to perform in the Van Gogh Museum. Perfect. This is the kind of Dutch innovations that we're looking for in the museum sector. This is why we are here. Hearing it from them, awesome. It's so cool. There's so much to learn from the framers themselves. Sorry, these two, they are curators who work at the Van Gogh Museum. Curators? I don't think that's the right word, but they do general work, but they used to be part of this student group, and then they got gigs from it, which is so cool. The system works here. You'll love to see it. That's what I'm talking about. So there's the self-portraits with all the things, and here's Van Gogh. Here's the Van Gogh. This is the L bend in this hallway. And I think they very intentionally put this skull here so that you could see it and then look to your right and see all of these self-portraits all in a row. And the effect of it's stunning. It's just a really, really incredible effect. So Madou's work is on one wall, all in the green backdrop. And then Van Gogh's works that inspired these, the works that they sent to Madou. They didn't send the works, but they sent the images themselves. But dude just worked off of pictures, just worked off of the screen. Had not before having this installation made and seeing the installation himself, had not seen a Van Gogh work in person. 1905. This painting's incredible. There's a abstract minimalism to it. There's a little bit of pointillism happening. A little bit of cubism, and just what we're doing with shape and color and form here is wild. All the way down to, this is Matisse's wife, and you don't know, is she coming, is she going? But she is the centerpiece of this whole thing, very small in the middle. She is the horizon line for him. So the ways that these, like, all of these curls come out with these pencil strokes, it's amazing. I'm stunned. Breathtaking thing. So, big finale, Friday, July 18th, World Museum. And it is a massive building. This building is gorgeous. This is a place where that colonialism built. This is time we get to finally talk about repatriation. We learned a lot about repatriation right before coming here, and then coming here, we then unlearned all of that stuff because the textbook stuff was useless. Holy shit, was it useless. Repatriation is a nightmare because states suck. So, if you're a museum and you have the human remains in your collection, it would behoove you to give those back to someone who might want them. However, you are a museum, and you can't do that. Because if you do that, you are stealing from your country. So, you have to talk to the country. Hey, the Netherlands, I would like to not be holding on to these human remains. Can you help me out? Hopefully they say yes. Let's find out what to do with those. Let's research on where these go. Okay, now this is going to take, time and research and money, but you're going to do your country is helping you out. Best case scenario, they have to put some money into this now to make this work. To find out, all right, we know which country they go to. We don't really know which place. Maybe you've even backtracked it to specifically which place it goes to. And then you go, hey, country, I'm trying to give these remains back to this place. And they'll go, we'll take those for you. And then all of a sudden, you as the museum have to go, hold on a second. I don't want to give them to you. I want to give them to them. And the state, the country goes, that's not how this works. And we don't want you to give it to them. They don't get those. Now we've got problems. There's just, you can see there's obviously so many levels to how a repatriation goal can go wrong, can go horribly wrong. And has. This is all stuff that we know now because these things have gone wrong. If you're trying to give something back to the indigenous people of Mexico, and the Mexican state says, that's ours now, you are now, culpable for screwing over indigenous people, which is not what the goal was in the museum. So, it becomes a lot more complex than just having a post out there to say, hey, whoever's these are, if you want them, please contact us and we'll get them back to you as soon as possible. It's complicated. So that's the end of our trip. On our final day, we went back to the pizza taxi place where we got that really nice looking pizza. And they iced him. This is inexplicable. That's our show. That's our show tonight. We just went through the entire, everything that I did for the last month in school, all of the stuff that I learned, every single part of the themes of innovation in the Netherlands and how that translates to Dutch librarianship, the heritage sector, museums and archives. It was all there. You can understand how, we went to the Black Archives at the very beginning of the quarter, and then an entire lifetime passed before we went to the World Museum and had to come back on, oh, right, Anton de Kamp as a revolutionary represents a whole lot of things to Suriname, but also represents a whole lot of things to the Dutch. As a revolutionary, there's a lot of respect there, actually. And how that works as, a socialist, communist leader against capitalist forces. the Netherlands represents that in a lot of ways. And it comes through in their librarianship in weird ways. Seeing the Oba at the beginning of the quarter, and then seeing Dok at the end of the quarter, and seeing how they classify all of their shelving and stuff in ways that make a lot of sense for their community. Just putting all of this together on all of these different scales to get a very thorough idea of how the Netherlands exists as a country and as a state inside of the European Union, and how they represent that and how they store their data with Dance. Just there's so many parts to this whole story, and I feel like we got a very good lens into a lot of those parts. But it was so fun. And yeah, with all of the people that I got to share that trip with, I thought it was the perfect group. Could not ask for a better group of people to share such an incredible experience with, and I hope that we get to meet up again at some point to at least say hi. At least say what up. Take it easy. Good job. We survived the entire Dutch stream. Thank you so much. And let's hit the hay. Let's hit the hay so hard. Whew. See y'all tomorrow for wrestling. Tip the tip, 2 hours.